You're listening to the Faith Chats podcast, where we hope you will be challenged and inspired in your faith journey as you hear how God has changed the lives of ordinary people like you and me. I'm your host, Lydia Garner, and it is my pleasure to introduce you today to my dear friend Kaitlin. 17 years ago, I befriended her family while we attended the same church in Canada, and a few weeks ago we were able to connect in person. In our chat, she speaks intimately of widowhood, grief, and the hope and peace that only God can supply. I have no doubt that you will be encouraged as you listen. And on that note, let's begin. Here we are, and just seeing the things that we've been through lately and what has affected your life most just recently.
Well, the passing of my husband has definitely become almost a personality trait at this point. It has affected my character in a lot of different ways, but also I think people would find that I've always had such a strong character, a strong personality. It's just different a little bit more now. We're matured. I don't feel like I'm only 27. Grief ages you, right? In an absurdly mature way. So I feel like I'm 40, which is not fair.
Yeah. You've gone through something that is pretty much the worst fear of every wife, losing your husband. And how long had you guys been married?
4 years and a month and 3 days.
And so how has that affected your day-to-day? Because obviously that's pretty massive life change.
It's so weird because we were in ministry together, and that was such an on and off thing that I look back at our 4 years marriage outside of college and stuff, and it was so chaotic. Like, we got married, COVID hit, we went into ministry failed, came back home to my parents' house, and we weren't where we wanted to be after one thinks they should be after 4 years, right? So part of me is like, well, it's just the next new thing that I have to adjust to. This is the next sucky door closing thing that I have to figure out and let God move me through. And so a lot of it has been very basically allowing God and submitting to God to push me through those doors that he needs me to go through.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. Like, when I think of the things that are changing, I no longer have my best friend who I went through all those things with. I no longer have that person who remembers things for me, right? Or where we only had those, it was the two of us experiencing something, and that was it, going through all those 4 years, even in college, right? And I don't have that person anymore to share those memories with anymore, so I have to figure out how to function being the only person left in that relationship. And it's rough. It's not fun. 10 out of 10, don't recommend it.
And how did you get to the point where your faith could remain even though you've been through such an incredibly difficult situation?
I was strengthened before it even happened. Like I said, a lot of disappointment and closed doors happened in our 4 years of marriage. Even right before our marriage, we had a big closed door and had to completely readjust how we were going to start our marriage off. And I'll admit, there was a lot of anger being bubbled up over those 4 years because just nothing was going well. Nothing was going right at all. And in the months leading up to Justin dying, we experienced a rather major heartbreak in ministry and ended up having to come home and stuff. And I was angry. I wasn't in a good spiritual place at all. Pretty much from that fall up to, I want to say, Easter. I think Easter was around the time where God was, where my heart was able to soften. So I had to go through maybe that angry stage to be able to come out. And then Justin passes, and it's like, oh, I have to aggressively hold on to God because I know who he is. I've just been mad at him for a little while. But he's been there while I've been mad at him, while I've been pouty and depressed and anxious about my life and unmotivated, right? And those were all true characteristics of me pretty much early 2023. I don't know why I needed to experience those emotions before Justin passed for me to be able to cling to God more strongly than ever, almost impressively. I was impressed with myself, and I think my family was too, in the sense that when Justin died, when we knew what was happening, because of the first half of the year, I think they were afraid for me. And they quickly were like, oh no, she's good. She's being held together by the Holy Spirit, and she's clinging to him. And I've been doing that every day since, for the past year and a month, right?
And how did your faith begin? Was it as a child, or was it in your teens, or sort of where did that foundation come from?
The foundation definitely came from having two amazing first generation Christian parents who had experienced the world and experienced a life and their family lives without Jesus, and aggressively held on to him in their adulthood. And so by the time I come along, they loved him deeply. They didn't just do life as a Christian. They knew who Christ was and taught me that throughout. So I got saved at a very young age because of that love. And I'm so thankful for that. There was a point when, middle school, early high school, where I was convinced that because I still was sinning or still having a problem with a specific sin, I must not be saved anymore or whatever. And I got saved again, quote unquote. I'm now convinced it was more of a rededication, which is common, especially for people who grow up in the faith, right? You need to rededicate when you know what you're doing and thinking. Yeah. But I always had that passion for the Lord. I believe that a spiritual gift of faith is involved. I've never once doubted what I believe is true, which I think helped me even in that angry stage, even in that depressed stage. It's just like, God, I know you're real. I know everything's like, I know you see everything that's happening, and you're with me through it, and you're with me before it and after it, right? Past, present, future. I'm just mad at you. And I would admit that, right? I'd pray that. I'd be like, I just don't want to talk to you. You're kind of messing with me, and it feels unfair. And I was very emotions ruled, but it did not ever make me doubt what I believed was true. And I thank my parents for that. They raised me in such a beautiful way to love the Lord and know what I believed in, to have the freedom to ask questions, which I know a lot of young Christians have a fear of asking questions, because it's like, no, this is just what we do as Christians, right? No, my parents were never that. They were like, yeah, ask questions, debate it, talk about it, question it, why we do what we do, because if you don't have a good answer, then why are we doing it? Right? Like, you don't have to do it, right?
I think that how you describe your parents is also how I feel mine were. And what a testimony that is to how then we, over this last year, have faced these massive heartaches.
Absolutely.
Because we've seen it for ourselves and our parents. And it's not required. It's not like somebody has to have had godly parents who have showed this.
Yeah, obviously, through my parents, for sure.
Yeah, but we got the heads up. We got the heads up that, hey, you can actually have this strength from God.
Yeah.
And have this real faith that lasts.
Yeah.
And that's massive. What would you say has been something that someone has said to you that has been really hurtful, though they meant it for good, that you would like to sort of give a heads up? Like, don't ask this to widows.
So in particular to widowhood, this might be where you have to edit out a pause.
No, that's fine.
I won't say who it was, but somebody who I look back and I'm like, they really didn't know any better, and they would have no reason to know any better, so I don't hold it against them. But they said to me, God has bigger and better things planned for you.
Ouch.
And I was like, my response actually to them at the time was, I don't want bigger and better. I want my husband.
Of course.
He was the biggest and best thing when I had him, right?
Yeah.
And he's still, to this day, and I think for the rest of my life, going to be like the biggest and best thing, right? Even though I'm being remarried, right? That's a weird thing altogether, right? Yeah. It's like, because Aaron's also the biggest and best thing right now, because that's the stage of life that I'm in, that I have to be in, right? But yeah, that was, I think, the worst thing is putting God in that box of like, I'm taking this thing from you so you can have a better thing. No, I don't think it's a so. Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's a, because you had that, I will give you this blessing. Right?
And it's every experience in our life can grow us. but all of these hard things are part of who we become.
Exactly.
And we do change and grow. And I guess I can relate because I got something because I was pregnant at the time of losing Zeke.
I can only imagine.
But it was all, and in hindsight, it's not true.
Yeah.
What they said about,
sometimes that's not the point, though.
Yeah, at least you're gonna have a baby soon. But I wanted the one I knew and I loved.
Yeah.
Loss
is still loss.
Yeah, and that's hard. And this baby inside of me was this unknown.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this person yet. I didn't love this person yet.
Yeah.
I love Zeke. And I'd had 8 years of loving Zeke. Mm-hmm. So no, this baby does not compete with that.
Yeah, it's not a competition when you've lost somebody to death. And that's been an interesting topic with me and Aaron. Because Aaron's for those listening is my fiance, soon to be husband. But it he has such a good head on his shoulders about this. I'm just like, I will never fall out of love with Justin. And in role, you are replacing Justin. But as a person, you are completely different. Even though there's some similarities, I like what I like. Yeah. but Aaron is replacing the role of husband to Kaitlin.
Right.
That Justin cannot do anymore. And I think at one point, a lot of widows, I'm on Facebook groups and stuff, they'll be like, I keep trying to compare and I keep trying to be like, oh, my second husband has to be similar to my first husband and this and this and that. And I'm like, or asking the question, if you could have your late husband back, what would you do with your new husband? I was like, that's not a reality. Yeah. It's not.
Why would you do that to yourself? Yeah, why would you ask
even that? Because I've thought of it, right? You can't help but think of it. But I've thought of it. I'm like, with the faith that I have of where Justin is, as much as emotionally I might want him back, I do not want him to come back. Right. He would hate me for it. He is in the most perfect place that he can be, where God is walking with him right there. I am not going to be the one to take him away from that. All I can do is keep going until I get there too.
Right.
Right. And so that question of if you could have Justin back, what would you do with Aaron? Right. Just throw Aaron away and take Justin back, or no, that's not reality. Same with Zeke and Titus, right? It's not an either or situation. Yeah. That's not reality.
Yeah.
The reality is one is gone, another has arrived. They are different. They're both your sons.
Yeah. And they're a comfort. This new person is not a replacement, but that is another season.
Yeah.
Of your life.
You keep going.
Yeah. And you have to, because life is full of hellos and goodbyes.
Yep.
And
I hate goodbyes.
Yeah. Well, and
I might cry tomorrow when you leave me. Bye.
Well, I'll make sure it's a really good cry.
Yeah, or I'll just
worth it.
just a sob.
Thankfully, we have internet. So.
Yeah, right.
Well, sorry, I have a lot of goodbyes, so I don't cry that often in them. I'm like, okay, see ya. No.
Yeah.
No, it's life and all these seasons of friends in and out, and it's not like we talked much. And then when he died, right as I was going through pretty early grief stages after losing Zeke.
Zeke was what month?
So he died end of February 23.
Right. And Justin died mid-July.
Yeah. So I was still in that 3-month stage, that first shock stage.
Yeah.
And I was talking to your mom about it before, about how, our circumstances are so very different, even for her, having lost, basically like a son to her, because she adored him and loved him, and he was part of your family.
Here in much of his adulthood, right?
Yeah. And I said, but I didn't have the sudden loss. I had the time to say goodbye.
It was a sudden enough, but still,
Yeah, but I mean, I had 6 weeks to prep.
It wasn't a night.
Yeah. It wasn't a sudden car crash. It wasn't a sudden, gone and when you had no goodbyes. And I said, there's a lot of trauma involved in the sudden that I was able to avoid with time.
See, that's so funny, because I'm actually incredibly thankful that Justin went the way he did. Because of just anxiety. So he was sick we didn't know he was pretty much a walking dead man.
Mm.
And the crash was caused from his heart failing.
Mm.
And there's lots of variables with that we're unsure of still, but that's the general diagnosis there. And I'm like, I'm so thankful that I didn't know and he didn't know how serious it was. And as much as I would have loved to say goodbye, I don't think it would have helped my heart very much. I think the suddenness, for me personally, it's going to be different for everyone. The suddenness was helpful for me because it's like I can't do anything.
Right.
All I can do is absorb the loss and not prepare for the loss. So I was completely unprepared, right? Everything's wrong. But I knew that there was only one thing that I could do, as opposed to, which is lean on God, as opposed to if it was before, I'd be like, I have to control, right?
Yeah.
God knew that I have some control issues. I want to have my hands on with stuff, and that I needed to just not be involved in Justin dying.
Yeah.
Right? And just be involved with putting him to rest and moving forward. I'm thankful for it. That it's something that I actually had to deal with. So that shock was almost a good thing for me. In, good, quote unquote, right? Like, it's none of it's good, but it's he went again the way I would have preferred him or me to go.
Yeah.
Just painless and free.
Yeah. And it's a lot. It's a lot to process and say goodbye. And I think having that spirit of gratitude, you're able to find something to be thankful for.
Yeah, I think that was me reaching out for that as well.
Yeah. And for me, well, obviously I'm not thankful that I lost my son, but I can find so many things in that experience to be thankful for, because what's the alternative?
Just down in the dumps all the time. I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
If anybody knows me and my personality, I'm not I gotta live a little. I gotta laugh. I think the first full day after realizing Justin was gone, like, I started cracking a dark humor joke, and I was like, this is not going to be for everyone, but this is for me because I think it's hilarious. It was horrible, and I think I said something in front of my mom at one point that was like a dark humor, death related funny to me to kind of cope. My mom was like, you can't do that in front of me. I was like, okay, I can respect that.
Yeah.
Right? It's not
recognizing the right time and the place.
Yeah, right. And so, but you know what? Death is not the right time or place either. So gotta deal with it.
Yeah, well, Cameron always used to joke that we had so many kids because we needed redundancies. And it's not so funny anymore.
No. Yeah.
But there's things that you say before a loss that perhaps are not in very good taste now. But at the same time,
in good taste, for me, is like, it comes and goes wanting to be tasteful.
Yeah.
For myself, right?
Yeah.
I'm the one who lost her husband. I'm gonna joke about him.
Yeah. Well, and you see that online, that there will be those that, they're sitting at their husband's grave that is a husband and father. And that's the kind of person that he was, that he would get a kick out of it.
Yep.
And one thing I found that's helped me is that I do have 4 healthy living boys, and they're who are before me. And so, like, you have Aaron before you to embrace and to love.
For the first bit.
Yeah, and you didn't. Then you do it at this season. And while other people might not be quite up to speed with that, other people aren't up to speed with where I'm at in my grief journey either.
Because they're not living it.
Yeah.
Like, my dad actually made this amazing analogy regarding grief, especially like at the beginning of me dating Aaron and knowing that this is going to go fast. I had nothing else going on. I was like, I'm just going to invest in dating this person. But my family was so much further behind in their grief, and I was doing well. That's why I just started to date. I was like, I'm going to live if I have to. I'm gonna. When my dad said, grief is like everyone's in their own little rowboat, and depending on how much time and dedication you can put into rowing, that's going to determine how far you are in it. And so he said, me, mom, and my siblings, who were all 4 of them, were there at the hospital after Justin was found. Right? He said, we all had to go back to our own lives and go to work, go to school then the following semester, and my brother got married a month later. And it's like they all only had so many hours in the day to row. Whereas me, I left work. I was working in daycare. I wasn't going back. I didn't have work. I didn't have a husband. I didn't have home. I didn't even really feel like I had a church family at the time either. I had nothing to do but row.
Mm.
And I rowed every day. And so me being able to do that, that's my experience of every minute of every day intentionally grieving so that I could intentionally live.
Mm.
And that was my goal. And I knew that. And I knew that's what I was doing. And I went to therapy and I'm like, am I doing this right? And my therapist was like, I think you're actually doing this pretty well. Like most people would not be where you are at this stage, at this age, whatever, right? And I was just like, yeah, because I have to. I don't have any other choice. My brother got married. My sister went to school. My parents had their own lives, and I had nothing to do but grieve. And it went strong and hard very quickly. And it's still going to happen, but still going to keep happening, I think. Just less intense.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you feel that way too. Like the intensity, time has healed it a little bit. It
Yeah.
comes and goes, but
yeah. But and I was thinking, as you said that, I was thinking, okay, well, I feel like I grieved hard and fast as well. But it's because I was in my final trimester of pregnancy. I had a lot of time to rest because I'm always pretty careful about that. I'm careful about resting at the end, and I'm careful about resting right after I have a baby because I know I can do more, but I know I shouldn't, and that's good for my body.
Create a safe place.
Yeah. And so I already naturally do that when I'm having a baby regardless, but now I'm having a baby with grief. And that's why his name was Titus Jabez. I bore him in my sorrow.
Yeah, Cam was telling me about that earlier today.
Yeah, but I had that time to process. And it did make a big difference. And I did feel like by the time that he came, and then it's kind of overwhelming in the newborn stage and everything, but I had the time and the space, and people loved on us really well.
Good.
Like we were getting meals regularly from February to like October or September.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like not all the time, but one thing I read
ate
on
so many sandwiches when Justin died, like platters and platters of sandwiches.
Well, one thing I'd read online, thankfully, was that they recommended, like if you have a church family that's bringing food or whatever, is to just ask for once a week. And then that doesn't burn out the church, and it doesn't burn out you, because it's quite overwhelming to then not be eating your own foods and stuff like that. And that was massive.
I wonder, will I like the food that this person brings?
Right, yeah. And thankfully, I just
make
told
something
them,
nasty. Is this person a good cook? Do I know?
But
it's just a different kind of anxiety.
Yeah. See, now anxiety is not something I struggle with.
Oh,
we talked about this early on.
It is definitely my brain's go-to is to be like stressed out. And I hold it all in my body too, so like my back's always hurting. I don't sleep well.
Well, it's things that we continue to learn.
Yeah. Oh goodness, I'm learning.
And so you're going to be getting married soon.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I'll probably be married by the time this comes out. Surprise, surprise.
And I knew ahead of time because I asked the right questions.
You did, and you're one of the few who knew. Because I just didn't want to tell anybody.
Well, because anything that we tell online invites opinion.
Yeah, and that's part of the anxiety that I've felt since Justin passed is the unfortunate desire to be perceived well by people who don't know me well, and that's just not healthy. So that's kind of why I've kept my relationship more private. I still want to brag on him. I still think he's the greatest gift that God could have given me after Justin died, 100%. And I want to celebrate him, but I think it's just going to be easier for my brain, my mental health, to just be like, surprise, we got married. Now you can have opinions because it's done.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's done and dusted. We're
it's done. It's under God at this point. What are you going to do?
No, I get it.
Yeah. It's just stress, I don't want to feel stressed, but
yeah. Well, and I appreciated seeing
because grief is so heavy and the processing is hard, and because you and I both did it hard and fast and relatively openly on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, we did.
How do you feel like, did that help you in your processing to write it out and to invite opinion? Did you find that you got unwanted opinion, or did you find that people were pretty good about it?
I think a lot of the opinions that I fear are made up in my head. Plausible still, but like very few people have outwardly said anything, which is almost worse. Because silence is like, it makes me think of like the phrase, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So if people are quiet around me, it's like, wow, you all are having your own opinions and blah blah blah, and then I'll get stressed out and I have to stop. It's definitely something I need to work on for sure, is that stress. But also it hasn't stopped me either from doing what I know the Lord's calling me to do, and Aaron entering my life is one of those things that I'm just like, I've never felt more spiritually strong towards something to keep moving forward as I have with Aaron.
That's good.
Which is amazing.
It's just what you need right now.
Absolutely.
That's great.
You met him. He's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it was such an honor to meet him. I'm really glad.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for talking to me about this really tough subject and about, how you've become, who you are today. And I'm excited to see where God takes you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see. I have this weird thing, and I'm not saying I felt it like when you were going through it with Justin, but like in sort of lighter problems, not like spouse loss, but in lighter problems when people are feeling stressed about a particular circumstance, because I've seen God show up so much. When I see people stressing about something that's maybe a smaller thing, I'm just kind of inwardly excited to see how God will grow their faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have to try not to be too excited.
He's growing it all right. As stressed out and anxiety inducing as life is, especially in widowhood, like I know a lot of it's in my head, and I know that God is faithful and he's both in my head and my heart and all around. I appreciate how much he's held me together through everything.
And what is something that you would say as we close? What is a piece of maybe advice of things that you've learned in your walk with God, or for somebody who's going to be, as they listen, they're going through a loss or may go through a loss in the future? What's something that you would say to them?
We say that God can handle anything, right? And that God can handle you. I don't think I really realized that until I was hurt and I learned how to lament. Learn how to do that. That would be my biggest advice. Learn how to shake your fist at God. Learn how to cry to him when you have no words to say. Learn how to shout. Learn how to sob. Learn how to complain. Because it is a release, it will bring you closer to him. It might not bring you closer to understanding anything that's going on, because trust me, it didn't for me. I still don't understand why what happened. And that's not even the point,
right,
of praying. Praying isn't the genie in the bottle, that's just like, please do this, please do this, please do this. It's like, no, it was communication. Be in communication with God, even when it's negative, because he will hold you through it. I think learning that, in, like I said, in that angry stage, in those months leading up to Justin dying, from a different heartbreak, like doing that, failing at it, doing at it, and almost practicing it for 8 months before Justin even died, prepared me to know how to talk to God in those moments. You can do that without heartbreak, right? You can go to God about anything. Just, that would be my biggest advice. Go to him unashamedly with all of the burdens, even if they're little. He cares if you care.
That is really, really good. And I'm sure that that's going to touch a lot of people's hearts, because there's going to be a lot of people that listen in various stages of their walk with God.
Yeah. I'm very grateful for my walk with God, for sure. I would not be where I am today without him.
And that's how I feel too. I don't know how I would get through this without God.
Oh my gosh, I have no clue.
Yeah. If we didn't have the hope of heaven, like, we're excited for them.
Mm-hmm. That's why I say I don't want him back. I mean, I want him back, but I don't want him to come back, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, when I think of Zeke now, I'm so
He and
so
Justin
happy
are
for him.
probably listening in, right?
Yes.
Like, look at them go.
They, they have it so good. They won. They totally won.
They say win. They run the race. They won the race. They got through it.
Yeah.
It was shorter than expected.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Bad for us. Good
Yeah.
for them. Right? We have a really long race. There's a lot more obstacles.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I am looking forward to many more memories with you in days to come.
Yeah, maybe let's not have 12 years in between.
Well, you know where to come. I've given you my address.
Yeah, Aaron wants to visit Hobbiton.
Well,
New Zealand.
You have my address, so come on over.
We're going to go with the hobbits.
If you have questions about what you've heard today, or even if you want to simply reach out and talk, please do. All of us have suffered loss of some sort. All of us have grieved in some way. You are not alone. I am happy to talk with you, and I'm sure that Kaitlin would be as well. You can reach me through the email address in the show notes or through Lydia Garner on social media. If you have felt encouraged or challenged today as you listened, please subscribe to the podcast so you can hear more interviews like this one. Please share it so others can be reached. And if you want to be sure not to miss any as they're released, be sure to hit the notification bell. We have no guarantee of a tomorrow, so friends, let today be the day that you sort things out between you and your Creator. Justin, Kaitlin's husband, was just on his way home from work. We don't know if we have another chance. Only you know what may be keeping you from the close relationship he desires to have with you. Every story is valuable, and your journey, whether you are in a valley or on a mountaintop, can be used for God's glory.